Greetings, welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today we're talking about a new album that's just been released on Metal Blade Records. The band's called Trial, and the album's called Feel the Fire, released on the 2nd of September 2022. It's a great album from a Swedish band, so check it out. Now, the band was formed in 2007. Now, the band consists of 5 members. 4 of them are the original members that are still in the band today. We've got Anders Olsson on bass guitar. We also have Martin Svellenson on drums. We have Alexander Elfström on guitar. Another guitarist is called Andreas Johansson. So these are the 4 original members from the original lineup, with the new singer that joined not so long ago. Now, the original singer for this band was called Linus Johansson, who pretty much left the band after in 2017 when the band released Motherless. That was the last album that he recorded with the band. His replacement was Arthur W. Johansson, who presently joined the band in 2019 and recorded the new album Feel the Fire. I have listened to some of the band's early material, especially the first album, which is called The Primordial Tempo, and this was released back in 2011. It's a really good album. And this album was released on a label called A Coffin Slave. This was released in 2011. Really good album for a debut. It's called The Primordial Temple. If you haven't got it, check it out. Now, this album would remind me of 2 bands. It would remind me of American band Warlord and Swedish metal band Candlemass. Now, another band that would spring to mind would be Savage Grace, a band that recorded a couple of albums on Metal Blade Records. I think mainly because of the vocals, they kind of remind me of the Savage Grace, the Fall from Grace album. And I also guess this band have a little vibe of Iron Maiden. So there's definitely an American vibe going on here. Early music from Metal Blade era. Some really good bands on Metal Blade, as we know. Like back in the day, Hellstar, Omen. And so many great bands. So this has got the vibe from the 80s. Now, in 2015, the band released their second album, which was called Vessels. This was released on High Roller Records, a German label. This album was pretty cool. It still had that Swedish vibe and American power metal vibe. It's somewhat, or traditional American power metal. But it also had a little hint of some black metal. So if I had to describe the band's music, I would say they were power doom, kind of mixed between doom metal and some power metal, especially the American style. And as for the doom metal, you've got the Candlemass vibe, you've got Witchfinder General, Angel Witch. Now, as the band progressed, I started to hear other influences coming through. A couple of Swedish melodic metal bands, Hammerfall was one of them, and also the band Wolf. Now, in 2017, the band would release their next album. This was called Motherless and was released on Metal Blade Records. So, for this album, I would also hear some other influences. Another band that sprung to mind for this album, Motherless, was a band called Enforcer. Some of you out there may know this band, Enforcer. They've done some pretty good albums on Nuclear Blast Records. Again, the album would also have some black metal influences. Don't get me wrong, there's no black metal vocals on here. Just some of the guitar riffing that's been done. It sounds very Scandinavian with the black metal scene. It's still a great album, don't get me wrong. And so we're going to talk about the new album now, Feel the Fire. This is a really good album. This is more power doom, moving away from the black metal vibe. They concentrate more on the high-pitched vocals with the epic doom metal vibe. So you've got the Candlemass for the Swedish doom metal. We've also got the band Sorcerer, another great band from Sweden. So you've got those 2 bands and this band's music mixed with melodic metal with high-pitched vocals in places. Really good album, really well put together. At times, the vocals actually remind me a little bit of Bruce Dickinson, and also the singer from the Danish metal band Jackal. Fantastic band. Unfortunately, they broke up and the singer passed away. But his vocals are very much like Bruce. So you pretty much like it. If you like Bruce Dickinson in the early days, you'll probably like this album. Now, what I like about this album is the American vibe. It's taken me back to the Metal Blade days in the early days. You know, your bands like Hellstar, your Omens, your Liege Lords, your Savage Graces. It's got that vibe of all those bands, so if you're really into the Metal Blade stuff from the 80s, you're really going to like this. Me personally, I love the stuff from the 80s, especially the stuff on Metal Blade Records. Some great albums, some great artists back then. Now, this album was recorded at Welfare Studios in Gothenburg, Sweden, with Pierre Stolzberg, with Kalle Lilja, and Ollie Björk as producers and engineers on the album. Now, I wouldn't say this is the most fantastic production, but it's gone back to the old school production vibe. So if you like the productions from the 80s, you're really going to like this. And this album also has a guest musician. We have Thomas Lindberg from the band At the Gates, who's doing vocals on the song Snare of the Fowler. A great song, so you really need to check this out, folks. Now, the album comes with 9 songs, and the CD also contains 2 bonus tracks. Now, the first song is an intro. It's called Thai Primer, followed by Sulfury, Thoris Great Path is another song. Then we've got In the Highest, Snare of the Fowler, that's the song I said, that's Thomas on vocals. We also have the title track, Feel the Fire. Then we have the Focus Hood, Quadvernium, and then the last song is called The Crystal Sea. Now I think there's some really good songs in this album. Some of the songs kind of remind me of Canadian band Striker. A couple of songs on this album have that galloping sound, the kind of thing that Iron Maiden would do, or Running Wild, or maybe Savage Grace. So you get the vibe of this album, what it's going to sound like. If you haven't got the album, then you really need to check it out. If you've already owned this album, you'll know what I mean. Now, I like the first opening song, Soul Free. I think it's a really cool song, catchy, up-tempo doom song with some power metal elements. The vocals are fantastic, there's some great playing. So if you like that stuff I've already mentioned, with a little bit of Iron Maiden thrown in, you're going to really like this song. Thoris the Great is another great song. It's got that galloping Iron Maiden vibe, a little bit of Savage Grace. It's really well put together, some really good singing. Some of the vocals are quite high in places, which is nothing wrong with that. Me personally, I'm a big Rob Halford fan, so I appreciate these high-pitched singers in places. The next song is called In the Highest. I really like this song. Like I said before, it's got that Savage Grace vibe, Iron Maiden, but it's also got a vibe of Lizzie Borden. The next song is called Snare the Fowler. This kind of reminds me of Hammerfall meets Iron Maiden. A little bit more traditional, but it's a really good song, and it still has that epic doom vibe to it. Now the title track, Feel the Fire. Don't get this confused with Overkill, it's not an Overkill album, folks, but this is a really cool song. It's got that epic doom vibe. On this song, you've got a little hint of the black metal sound in there, just on the guitars. It's still melodic, so don't be put off by this black metal vibe, but you'll know what I mean when you hear it. You'll hear this like 4-chord, like fast riffing in places that the black metal bands do. Now the Filter's Hood song is very doomy, so it's kind of like the Candlemass, the Sorcerer, and a little bit of Black Sabbath and Trouble. Still a great song. It's, as we all know, Sweden's well known for a lot of doom metal bands, so that you'll get the vibe in this band. Now the next song, the Filter's Hood, is very epic doom. You get the Candlemass, you get the Sorcerer vibe in there. Something about Swedish bands that tend to do a lot of doom metal. Nothing wrong with that. Sweden bands are really good at doing doom metal, so this is probably one of the epic doom songs on the album. Now Quadvernium's a really cool song. It's kind of got a galloping sound, real traditional, real 80s production. You know, I guess the band wanted to do an 80s production because that's where the heart is. Same with me, love me 80s metal. So this is a really cool song. It's catchy, it's mid-tempo, but it's really well worth checking out. And the last song, The Crystal Sea. This is yet another epic doom song with a little bit more up-tempo. The vocals are fantastic. There's some real good melodic guitar playing here. Great rhythm section. So this is a really cool album for old school metalheads who like epic doom power metal. So I'm going to give this album 4 out of 5. I think it's really cool. Nice production. Way back in the 80s sort of vibe to this production, but it's really cool. Nice artwork for the album. A band that you really want to check out. So if you've not heard Trail before, please track them out. They're a fantastic band. The album's called Feel the Fire on Metal Blade Records. Thanks for watching, Metalhead. Be safe.